Hi, I am Dr. Kriti, your host for today, and you are watching Dr. KK's Med Talks, Mondays Non-Stop, show 895th episode. Here are the headlines for today. A recent survey by Indian Medical Association reported that over 80% doctors in India are stressed out in their profession. Newer research continues to indicate that suicide rates among doctors outpace rates in the general public. In the last 2 months, nearly 10 doctors have reportedly died by suicide in different institutions across the country. Most of them were younger than 30 years. As per recent statistics, nearly 75% of doctors in India encounter some form of violence in their professional career span. Giving tribute to Dr. late Vandana Das, Sashi Tharoor introduces bill to make violence against doctors a non-bailable offence. So, now we have the topic for today, which is the way professional. Now, let me introduce our guest for today, Dr. Sanjay Kalra, whom you already know. Dr. Sanjay Kalra is a distinguished endocrinologist at Bharti Hospital, Karnal, India, whose passion for medicine and research is evident through his extensive accomplishments. Holding an impressive array of titles, including past president of the Endocrine Society of India, president of the Indian Professional Association for Transgender Health, and president-elect of the South Asian Federation of Endocrine Societies. His dedication to advancing endocrine health is unmatched. With his role as editor-in-chief of the Asian Journal of Diabetology and involvement in various other editorial capacities, he not only contributes to the medical field but also spreads awareness on a global scale. Welcome, Dr. Kalra.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. It's a great pleasure being on this show, especially being a guest on this show.
We are happy to have you here. And good evening, Ms. Swapna Jain, Vipin Bhandula, and Dr. R.S. Chaudhary. Thank you for the welcome. So, Dr. Kalra, as you know, our topic for today is the way to happy life for a healthcare professional. As you know, as from the recent headlines, doctors are really stressed out in this country. And every week or so, we receive numerous reports about violence against doctors. So, how would you describe stress?
Stress is a part of life. It is an inevitable part of life. If you look at it at a macro level, that means what's going on in the world around us. There is stress. We are faced with challenges, demands of life, and sometimes we don't know how to cope with them. That causes stress. But even if you look at a smaller level, at a meso or at a micro level, inside the body, at any point of time, even as we speak now, our cells are undergoing stress. Our homeostasis, maybe the system which tries to maintain our temperature, that is undergoing stress. Sometimes it's hot, other times it's humid. And the cells do respond to that. So when you ask the question, how do you define stress? That is a part of life. And it's a means by which you try to adapt to or cope with the various challenges and demands of life. So that's what it is. It is an integral part of life.
Okay. And what do you think are the causes of stress for healthcare professionals?
So, like we said, if you look at it from a cellular point of view, the stress may be too much of glucose in the body, and then suddenly all the cells want to metabolize the glucose. Maybe too much of adipose tissue or cholesterol, and the body has to fix out how to dispose of that. But at a macro level, what you are asking is it's basically about what you see around life. Let me go to community medicine, where we have something called the epidemiological triad. What the epidemiological triad says is that there is a host, there is an etiological factor, which may be COVID 19, and then there is the environment. Then our colleagues in community medicine realize that's not enough. So, a quadruple or a quartet was created. The fourth angle is time. So let us look at all these four angles and then try to define why stress occurs. First of all, the host, that is the medical professional, as you've said. Maybe the medical professional himself or herself is not resilient enough. And I think that is true in some cases, because you see, when you study in school or maybe plus one, plus two, there is so much of stress of passing the exams, of going into the books. You forget to learn how to manage life, how to navigate life on this planet. Same thing happens in MBBS and MD. Everyone is always so focused on the books and on the MCQs that they forget that there are other domains of, of health, of life, of wellness, of well being. So that is the host's weakness: lack of resilience, lack of adaptability. Now, when we look at the etiological factor, for diseases, it may be a bacteria or a virus. Here it is the stress that you're getting from people around you. Maybe your colleague, your peer, your friend, your juniors, they're a bit obnoxious, they're a bit toxic. They face stress. They don't know how to manage it, so they transfer it to you. So the host is you. The people around you, that's the etiological factor. They may be bad. The etiological factor can be the physical environment as well, not only social, but the physical environment, the financial environment. So, the same kind of stress, let's say you have 100 rupees in your pocket, you may be able to manage because you know how to cope with it. But you don't have any money in your pocket, then you get into trouble. Also, maybe if you have too much of money, then the money gets spent in the wrong place. You get into issues like substance abuse because there is too much of money floating around. That's another issue. So that was the environment. And the fourth thing is time. So time is an important part of the epidemiological quartet. And here, there is stress, there will be challenges. But if you're faced with extreme, severe challenges, throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, you don't get a time to switch off, to relax, then you can get burnt out. So I think the fourth thing is time. Sometimes there is continuous stress. Maybe a postgraduate student having to work 20 nights in a month without getting an off, 18 hours working days. There's no time to relax, to rejuvenate. So these four things, Dr. Kriti: the host's own resilience, the medical professionals, the social environment that the professionals find themselves in, and they have no control over it, the physical environment as well, the financial environment, and also time, the exposure to these obnoxious or unwanted stimuli.
Okay. Good evening, Rameshpal Singh ji and Dr. Homemaker. Nice to have you on our show. My next question was going to be on burnout, and you have described it really well. So, what would you say to doctors who are young doctors who are really afraid to jump into this profession because of all these reports on violence? And as a doctor, it scares me too. While I was working in the emergency department uh, during my internship, so how does one deal with that?
I would say to everyone who is listening and all the young people, there is certainly violence, both physical as well as verbal violence against healthcare professionals. But that doesn't mean there is no violence against other professions. Exactly the same thing. Have you ever thought what kind of verbal violence the guards or the security guards face when they're at their work? The traffic policemen, the policemen or policewomen at work, everybody faces violence. Our members of the armed forces, they face a very severe kind of a violence when they are defending our borders. So this kind of violence is there everywhere. We also understand, and it is very unfortunate that tolerance is going down across the country for all sorts of people. So people are less and less tolerant. So it is not just the medical profession where this occurs. The second thing is that it's also about your own resilience, the way you manage. I will not say 100%, but 99%. If you smile at people around you, they will smile back. Of course, you have to be cognizant of social etiquettes. I mean, the age or the gender of the person you're smiling at. So that is a separate matter. But in general, if you are happy from within, you will find that people around you will calm down. If you're unhappy from within, then you will find that the people around you will become unhappy. I'd like to share an example from my practice. I studied at AIMS New Delhi. That was in 1999. And then I came back home to Karnal. So I was the first endocrinologist in my state, the fourth DM from any discipline in the entire state of Haryana, the third DM in clinical medicine. And I thought that there should be a red carpet waiting for me. People will say thank you to me for coming back to my hometown. That did not happen. Instead, I used to get just brickbats, not bouquets. I used to feel very upset also sometimes. The same people who would have praised me to the skies had I been working in AIMS New Delhi or in Gangaram, and they would have said, हमारा छोरा, हमारा लड़का, साटा मुंडा, दिल्ली में नौकरी करता है, बहुत बड़े अस्पताल में है. The same people would leave no stone unturned to criticize me or to pull me down just because I was living in my hometown. That is all I had asked God for. Then I realized that I was also not saying thank you to people. So I began that. So now in my OPD, there are two words which I continue using from morning till evening. One is happiness. We can talk about that later. But the second is thank you. So I will say, thank you, madam, for having taken care of your husband. Because you spend so much time in the kitchen trying to make tasty food, that's why his glucose has come down. Thank you, young man, for bringing your grandmother to the hospital. You could have done so many things today. You could have gone out with your wife, with your friend, but you've chosen to invest in your grandmom. Thank you. That's why she's going to become okay. Thank you, sir, for taking metformin, that big tablet, 500 milligram, 1 gram. You are really, so concerned about your health. Thank you for taking that big tablet. Thank you for taking insulin 2 or 3 times a day. So when I began doing that, I found that within a month, people began saying thank you to me as well. So now, not all my patients are happy, not all my patients are satisfied, but most of them are. And the word positive energy, which Seemaji has used from Kolkata in the comment box, that positive energy flows. It's 90% of the OPDs comes in with positive energy. And they say thank you to me. And that keeps me going. So there is, I will not say zero, but there is minimal verbal violence. Sometimes there is also. You can fight violence with violence, and I sometimes lose my temper and do that. But most of the time, I think I want to find out why that person is, so upset, why the person is on a verbal high. So usually, you can find a reason for that. The patient has a financial stress, maybe a social stress, stress of time. They don't want to wait in the OPD, and they are least bothered that another 50 people are also waiting in the OPD. So, but if you can find the reason, then you can sort of understand what they are going through, and you can help them calm down.
I had
The
a
only
similar.
Yes, yeah,
Continue.
carry on, carry on.
I had a similar experience during internship when we were posted in a rural health center in rural Gurugram. So what I observed was when I was nice to patients or when I used to show empathy to them, like Mr. Vipin Bhandula said, patients were actually much calmer and they didn't have much complaints, I would say. And if I used to say, okay, this is the treatment, and suppose you cannot afford medicines or the medicines are not available in the hospital, then what are some herbal remedies you can use or home remedies which can help you achieve good health faster? So that used to help a lot.
If you can add a little bit of friendliness to whatever prescription you have, and like Dr. Kriti has said, maybe a functional food, a folk remedy, something non-pharmacological, which might mean walking to the temple or mosque 2 times a day as a management for diabetes, which might mean increasing the quantity of a particular spice in the food for its benefits. Of course, patients will require the medicine, but when you can add simple things like this, the patient feels that the doctor is viewing me as a human being, and the doctor is able to put herself or put himself in my shoes. The doctor is able to understand how my kitchen is like. They get that feeling, and then they respond. So it is, like we said, time is an important part of the epidemiological quartet. To the young doctors, it takes time. It is not going to happen overnight, but let's begin doing this. So please do not be afraid of joining the profession. It's a very meaningful profession, and it gives you and gives other people happiness as well.
One of the remedies to deal with stress is to take time out for yourself. And Dr. Manjot asks, what do we do when we feel guilty for taking time out for ourselves and our commitments?
So that is true. And when you are senior, sometimes you are able to do this. But when you're junior, let us say you're an intern, a junior resident, an academic senior resident, you say there's no time. Now, the thing is that everybody has got 24 hours in a day, right? Unless you go to Mars. On Mars, they have 25 hours. So let us take an example of maybe a very busy junior resident in surgery or in ops gynae. You have to be at work 24 hours a day, that I understand. But you can take micro time out. While you are walking in the corridor, maybe you're going to fetch your patient's reports or you're wheeling the patient maybe to the OT. It's up to you to think whatever you want to think. So you can meditate, you can think of good things, you can recite a prayer. If you're not very spiritual, you recite your favorite poem. If you don't know any poem, you create one in your head. So that is also time out for yourself. Count your blessings. If you are tired, let us say this is called mind body medicine. Let's say you are really tired. You've been on your feet 16 hours. Now your feet are swollen, your feet are tired. If you keep on thinking about the swelling and the tiredness in your feet, it's going to become worse. So maybe you think about my shoulders are nice, so shrug your shoulders. And Dr. Kriti, I'm reminded of this song. If you're happy and you know it, what should we do?
Clap your hands.
So let's clap our hands. Yeah. So if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Only thing, if you're in the hospital in the corridor and you clap your hands for nothing at all, then people will think you need to become a patient and go to another department. So do it mentally. Clap your hands. If you're happy, remind yourself that you're happy. And if you can do this in microseconds, nanoseconds, that also cheers you up. Another thing would be for young doctors not to go hungry. So keep something in your pocket. It can be a chocolate, it can be a packet of maybe roasted gram or chana. It can be anything. Don't go hungry. You will need carbohydrates to get you throughout a busy day and throughout a busy residency. So keep on eating every 3 or 4 hours. Doctors should also remember that there is a very high risk of infectious disease when they are working in the hospital. Example would be COVID-19, tuberculosis. So the best way of fighting that is to build your immunity. And the best way of doing that is to eat adequate proteins. So keep protein bars or protein-rich foods in your pocket and keep on munching every few hours.
Like Dr. Harivanshika says, gratitude can be the antidote to stress. Her question is, what are some reformatory steps that we can take to change the toxicity we face in different departments, as most of them are senior doctors and we are scared to call it out?
From a younger doctor's point of view, you are right. It is very tough. I agree. And the fact that we have gone through it doesn't mean that our younger people should go through it. I have been blessed. I have got great teachers in my undergraduation, in my post-graduation. My guide, Dr. S.K. Mahajan, sir is still in Hisar. He's practicing there. And during my fellowship, my guide is Professor Nikhil Tandon. Both of them have been very kind and very good to me. But I know people whose guides were not so helpful. I really wish that all the senior doctors could watch this episode of KK Med Talks and could understand that they need to mentor, groom our younger people in a happy manner. If the younger doctors don't become happy, then patients obviously are going to become grumpy and grouchy, and then this cycle of violence, verbal and physical violence, is going to worsen. So we need to be happy from within. There have been recent instances where the senior doctors have been called out for being rude and for trying to trouble younger boys. And I think that is a good trend. At least the directors of the big institutes, they understand that it is the doctor, the senior doctor, who is at fault, and the senior doctors have been punished. We should not sort of punish everybody, but I think the first thing would be to get everyone to listen to these kind of talks, to understand that they have to be human, they have to be humane. Now, from a junior point of view, the question was, how can we sort of change the environment? Try to smile, keep on smiling, use good words. Sometimes you cannot call your senior out yourself. Find someone else, maybe somebody from, let's say you're working in gynae, you get somebody from psychiatry to speak to that person. Find out why the senior person is so grumpy, grouchy, why the senior person is irritated, and maybe you can fix that up. uh, there is something known as the hypoglycemia aggression hypothesis. This came from South America. So the anthropologist there, he found out that out of all the Indian tribes in Bolivia were very calm, very docile, but there was one tribe which was always aggressive, always angry, always fighting outsiders. So what he did, he checked glucose in all of them, and he found out that the glucose levels were higher in the aggressive tribe. I have seen this in my OPD. This hypoglycemia aggression hypothesis is, in the morning I am the politest doctor in the world. By 12:01 I begin to get tired, and by 2 then I am just waiting to lose my temper. I just need an excuse to lose my temper. That is because there is neuroglycopenia. There is low glucose in the brain, neuroglycopenia. So the prevention of that is a 3+3 meal pattern. So if your senior resident is a bit angry, you make sure that you feed your senior resident every 3 hours. 1 week you might have to feed him the chocolates and the roasted gram. Uh, I'm sure after 10 days, the senior resident will begin feeding you cashews and almonds, and things will be fine, and you will have a happier department. So make sure that nobody goes hungry around you. Let's say you don't have any
And
money, even tiger biscuits should be fine.
like Mr. Humpty Dumpty says, don't be hangry.
Yes.
So Dr.
Don't be
Harleen
hungry.
asks, what if the seniors don't get I am not well and they reply with Baki sab bhi to aate hain when you ask for a day off when you are not well?
The answer is yes, madam. But I understand my weakness. I will try to build it up, but I need rest. And otherwise, I'll become more sick and I may have to take a longer off. Just don't respond in a sarcastic manner or an angry manner. Also, don't respond in a defensive manner. Respond in a neutral manner. Madam, I'm really well. I don't think I can do justice to my work. However, if I rest for 12 or 24 hours, I'll come back healthy. So just repeat the same thing in a very calm manner, the same kind of language that I'm using. Don't be aggressive. Don't be sarcastic. Don't be defensive. Don't be afraid also. You're not telling a lie. You're not doing a harm. You're not doing a sin by asking for a leave, which is your due. Just ask in a polite manner. Of course, now if you ask for leave right in the middle of a busy OPD, then also, I mean, then you can time yourself and you can ask after 2 hours. Do remember that hypoglycemia aggression hypothesis. So if you ask for leave immediately after an OPD, when everybody is hungry, then the answer will be different. But they've had their lunch, they've had their tea or coffee after the OPD, then the answer will be different. So use that Chanakya Niti or that extra sixth sense when you ask for leave.
She also asks that how can senior doctors make our experience more pleasurable and more and less toxic?
Senior doctors should remember that they are human beings first and they are doctors afterwards. So this is a request to everyone, and not only to senior doctors, to everybody, whether they are politicians, whether they are policymakers, planners, to everyone. You are human first, and after that, you are doing a particular job. And humans should be happy. Humans should live in harmony. Humans should be able to smile. And this is a request to everyone. We can,
What are
when Dr. Harivanshika asks about reformatory steps, I think when we go to Twitter, when we go to Instagram, many senior doctors are not on these platforms. So the chances of reaching them are less. For senior people, you may have to go to Facebook. You may have to go to WhatsApp. Now, if you create blogs or you create WhatsApp messages which are angry, which are confrontational, the senior doctors are going to hit back. But why don't we begin by creating WhatsApp messages flyers, which are kind of friendly and neutral flyers, where we just say this is a problem statement. We understand the pressures that the senior doctor undergoes, but this is a solution statement. This is how we can work together. So that may be a practical thing, Dr. Harivanshika. And then when you say that, what can I do as a single person? What difference will my WhatsApp flyer make or my WhatsApp post make? Then you are underestimating yourself. Create one, see how the movement grows.
what are some other steps with which we can deal with burnout and stress?
I'd like to quote from Seema ji, who is writing from Kolkata. She says, I would also like to share how I continue to stay positive even after facing so much negativity. Her inspiration is Mahadev. He took poison. That's why he's called Neelkant, the blue throat. We learn from Mahadev, he took poison for the benefit of mankind, and then he bestowed everyone with his blessing. So, how can we avoid burnout? Four things I can speak about. The first is build yourself, make yourself more resilient. It is not going to happen overnight, it is an ongoing process. Every day, I myself learn something new about my resilience, how to improve my resilience. So, the first thing is build yourself up. How do I do that? I read books. I speak with seniors who teach me good things. I learn wisdom from them. I learn from juniors as well. And whatever I see in society, in the environment around me, I try to learn from that. Like Seemaji learns from Mahadev. Uh, there is maybe there's a storm. You see that the grass bends, the trees bend, but after the storm, they are back to normal. They are smiling. The plant grows so many flowers. The flowers get plucked off, and then after 2 weeks there are new flowers. So that is resilience. So you build yourself up, you learn from everything around you. That's the first thing. Second thing is, do not hesitate in taking support from people around you. That can be your family, it can be your friends, it can be peers, seniors or juniors. So take support. Let us say you are in the OPD, you have 100 patients to see. You cannot manage alone. You have only an intern with you, right? It's not only intern, it's an intern. It's a human being. So what you can say is, okay, these are the old patients. Like what I would do, maybe I would see, okay, the ones with the normal glucose, why don't you show the intern and then come to me. But the ones who are new patients with a glucose of 600 and 500, those I may see myself. So don't hesitate in taking support from people around you. The support can also be, I am too tired. Can you please telephone and order a packet of biscuits and tea for me? That's also support you're taking. Third is, try to divide your work so that it doesn't hit you too much at one time. That's the third thing. So do some things in the morning, some in the evening, some at night. You are faced with 100 things to do in your round book, right? You divide them into three. The ones that have to be done immediately. If you don't do them, it can be life threatening for the patient. The ones that you can do tomorrow also, because nobody is going to ask you in tomorrow's round. So you postpone them till tomorrow. You are going to be asked only on Friday. And then the third, the ones that you can do in 2 or 3 or 4 hours. So you divide it into three, all your work, do the immediate work first, then go out and have dinner, eat something. I'm repeating again, don't go hungry, not more than 3 hours when you're a young doctor. And then come back and do the middle kind of work. And the rest of the work you can do later on. So that's the third thing. First was strengthen yourself. Second was seek support from people. Fourth was you divide your work so that it doesn't hit you at the same time. And the fourth is you minimize the discomfort of change. Now, whenever you are faced with a new thing, you will feel uncomfortable. How do you do that? You break a particular work into different bits and pieces. So maybe you're a new doctor and you're doing a cesarean for the first time. You don't know how to do it. You've seen your seniors doing it, but you've never done it yourself. You break it into bits and pieces. So the first is, I have to take the patient into the labor room. That's one work, into the OT. The second work is, I have to clean and drape. The third is, I have to incise. The fourth, I have to bring the baby out. The sixth, I have to stitch up. So you divide into 6 things. Now suddenly they become much smaller, and then you can do them one at a time. So learn how to break a big challenge into small bits and pieces, and then things are fine.
One of the tips you shared was similar to triage, which Humpty Dumpty says. Emergency doctors would be able to understand it much better now. There is a lot of talk about work life balance these days. How can a doctor, especially the ones who are gynecologists or surgeons with a very, very busy life, how can they achieve that?
Everybody has 24 hours in a day. Everybody has different priorities. So there is something called work-life balance. There is another thing called work-life integration. Some people integrate work into their life. So if you are really passionate about gynecology, surgery, neurosurgery, then actually what happens is you end up integrating the work into your life. uh, I'll speak about myself, for example. What I did initially, I was not able to do it. And to the young doctors who are not able to do it, do not feel afraid, do not feel lonely. You are not alone. All of us face the same challenge. Initially, there are financial challenges as well, financial struggle. You have to pay your EMI, you have to get a roof above your head. So that's why you have to work more. But once you are through that basic challenge of life, once your basic finances are met, what you can do is you can divide your day into different parts. So what I do, for example, the first part of the day is my clinical part. I see my patients, I do my OPD. After that, I need to rest because I get tired. So it's not that I'm sick. I know that I need 1 or 2 hours off in order to rejuvenate. And then in the evening, I do my academic work which gives me happiness. So let's say you're a gynecologist, you can make changes. What you can say is, I will do my OPD only for 4 hours or 6 hours in a day, not for 12. Nobody is forcing you to do a 12-hour OPD. Nobody. If your employer is forcing you to do a 12-hour OPD, then the employer should pay you for that. Then you can feel happy that you're getting paid. Other things a gynecologist can do are, if it is an emergency, obstetric emergency, we will take the patient up any time of the day. That's what we are there for. But if it is an elective procedure, an elective DNC, an elective gynae office procedure, then that will be done in the morning. You don't have to do it at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. You can do it the next day in the morning. If the patient says that I will go to another doctor because I want an elective procedure at 8 p.m., that is fine. Let the patient go. Do not feel upset. Do not feel bad. The patient is making her own choice. You are making your own choice. So you just set your boundaries. For emergency work, you should be there 24 hours a day. But for elective work, you can set your boundaries. And it is not difficult to do. Once you put that in your head, in your mind, once you begin believing and once you begin thinking that you need time off for yourself, actually the correct words will come out of your mouth and the correct actions will flow from your pen. So just create
So,
boundaries.
so these days, the admission process for both UG and PG courses are going on. So, what advice do you have for the UG students and for the ones who are about to start their post graduation?
For everyone who is entering the profession, I would like to say a warm, warm welcome. We are very proud. We are happy that you have chosen to become doctors. One of my best friends, her name is Riddhi Agarwal. She has got admission in Bhopal. The result came out today. So I'm feeling very happy. I'm very proud of her. Uh, so to those who are joining MBBS, it's a wonderful decision you have made. Warm welcome. You will have to study, certainly. You will have to work hard. But that is part and parcel of life. Even Lord Krishna works. In the Bhagavad Gita, very clearly he says, I am God. I do not need to work. Yet I work. And why do I work? He explains to Arjun. He says, I work because number one, I have to maintain my physical body. And number two, I have to set an example for other men, for other people. So lead from the front. In MBBS, you will be exposed to nearly 20 subjects. All those 20 subjects have various sub-disciplines, so it would be around 100 disciplines. Uh, you will be certainly you will be able to find one discipline, one subject which suits you, which suits your temperament, and then you can specialize in that. To those who are joining PG and the results are coming out now, they are yet to come out actually. Uh, for those of you, I would like to congratulate you. You've completed MBBS. That is a major milestone. And now again, depending upon what you get, you will certainly be able to complete your degree. And whatever subject you join, it can be medicine, it can be surgery, forensic medicine, pharmacology. There are multiple subspecialties in that. So in the next 3 years, you will be exposed to most of those subspecialties during your MD. And after that, you choose what suits you the best. So you specialize in that. Aim to become the best in the world, aim to become the happiest in the world. And if that is your aim, you will achieve that.
So, today we discussed about what is stress, what is burnout, and Dr. Kalra shared some really helpful tips to overcome both of those. to our viewers. Do we have any more questions?
There is a regards coming from Dr. Pradeep Raval from Ujjain. So warm greeting, Dr. I'd like to speak about happy hormones. So we have happy hormones. They are hormones which come from the brain, which actually make you happy. And the same way that you build your muscles, you go to the gym and then you want to build your biceps or triceps, or you want to lose weight, you're able to do that. Similarly, if you exercise your mind, you can increase the percentage, the proportion of these happy hormones. They will make you more resilient, more happy. The environment around you will still be the same. It may be equally toxic, but you will be able to manage in a better way. So these happy hormones are, we remember with the word DOSE, DOSE, D for dopamine, O for oxytocin, S for serotonin, and E for endorphin, DOSE. The serotonin comes from the brain, and it also comes from the bacteria in our gut. So in our gut, we have many bacteria. We call it the gut microbiome. These bacteria produce a lot of serotonin. That's why you have something called the gut brain axis. In English, you also use the phrase a gut feeling. Something in my gut tells me that such and such is going to happen. That's because the gut microbiome is our second gene pool. It contains more genetic material than the rest of the body. It is our second nervous system. It produces neurotransmitters. And it is our second endocrine system. It produces hormones as well. If you keep these bacteria happy, the easiest way is to eat curd, yogurt, prebiotics. Prebiotics are food for the bacteria. Probiotics are happy bacteria, healthy bacteria. You can eat the bacteria as well. So curd will have a little bit of everything. Probiotics is like the resistant starches, inulin, bamboo shoots, fermented pickles. So if you take more of these, then your bacteria become happy. Your brain becomes happy. In fact, Dr. Kriti, one of the happiest hormones is known as anandamide. Anandamide. It is a neurotransmitter, and they chose the word from Sanskrit. Anand means bliss in Sanskrit. There are comments coming from Seema ji and Dr. Harivanshika and Sudarshan Vimola ji as well. If you could take them, Dr. Kriti, please.
Yes, Dr. Harivanshika says thank you for this session. And she feels that after this session, we can break the chain of toxicity. Seema ji says that people suffering with hypothyroidism and hypertension tend to lose their temper sometimes. And constipation also leads to a change in our behavior.
That's true.
Sudarshan says
You can
that
pick that
Dr.
up,
Kalra,
yes.
you are great.
Sudarshan ji, your eyes are great. Yeah. And Seema ji shares a recipe, I think, for happy bacteria.
Fermented ambali.
Yes.
Seema ji, can you explain what that is? And Dr. Reshma ji asks, how long pre and probiotics can be taken?
Seema ji, thank you for the question. There is no simple answer. The easiest for us, all of us, would be to take curd regularly, homemade curd. If you want to take a pre-probiotic preparation, you can take it indefinitely. You can take it as a capsule, as a pharmaceutical capsule, as a pharmaceutical powder. You can also take it as a commercial preparation, like probiotic curd. Many forms are available, many brands are available. But the high risk people who should take pre-probiotics, let me mention that. That is people who are taking antibiotics for a long time, people who have antibiotic induced diarrhea, people who are taking antacids or proton pump inhibitors. These are the drugs that we use for acidity, for gastritis. Omeprazole, rabeprazole, pantoprazole. What these do is they increase the pH of the body, of the gut. When they increase the pH, the bacteria that were living happily ever after with low pH, they die out. And when the pH increases, then the oral bacteria, the ones which would otherwise die in the stomach because of acidity, those bacteria don't die out. So you get more of oral or unwanted bacteria. You get bacterial overgrowth. So first is people who have antibiotic induced diarrhea, people who are on long term antibiotics, people who are taking antacids or proton pump inhibitors. In these, we should be using more of pre probiotics. Patients who are on multi drug therapy, The patient, because of whatever illness, is taking 4, 6, 8 types of drugs. All of them are going into the stomach, and all of them are have the potential to trouble the gut. So then again, pre-probiotics should be taken. But no simple answer for your question. These are the high risk things that we mentioned.
Swapna ji says every profession has plus and minus. As Sir said, we need to strengthen ourselves, find support, balance, and manage time. Rightly, rightly said, Swapna ji.
Strengthen ourselves, support from anywhere that you can get, and spread your work out. Don't think that everything has to be done today. Keep on doing a triage, like Humpty Dumpty said, work time triage. So whatever work you have in your mind, you divide into three, and then once you do that, you actually get used to it. Things that have to be done immediately, things that you can postpone till tomorrow, things that can be done in a relaxed manner by the end of the day. So strengthen yourself, seek support, and spread your work out.
Seema ji has shared the recipe. This is a fermented gruel made from positive millets. And she says that homemade curd is set overnight and ambali is fermented overnight. It helps in restoring good gut bacteria. She also says that dosa is fermented, but it is cooked, and ambali, on the other hand, can be taken in its original form.
Thank you, madam, for that insight. And this is something we will spread across the world. So, fermented ambali. And in general, uh, since we are talking of pre-probiotics, there is something known as metabolic diversity, microbial diversity. Microbial diversity means how many types of bacteria, how many genus, how many species are there in your gut. The more the microbial diversity, the better the metabolic health. So when we take foods like this, fermented foods, we actually improve our microbial diversity, which in turn improves our metabolic health.
Reshma ji asks, curd helps in increasing good bacteria, but does it increase acidity due to its sour taste?
No, I think it's fine because the pH is such that it actually calms the gut down. So you can take sweet curd if you wish. You can take neutral curd without any sweet or salt, and you can also take sour curd. So different recipes are there for sour curd, for sweet curd, and all of them are fine based upon your taste.
So, thank you for joining us, Dr. Sanjay. Can we have the certificate, please?
Thank you so much, Dr. Kriti. I feel so proud and happy. I'm getting a certificate like this for the first time. So it's a matter of
Uh,
great pride for me.
we are happy to host you too. So, that was all for today, and Dr. KK Talks will be back tomorrow with another episode. Good evening and Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.